Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Interesting times in the Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox. It's Tuesday, and all of our guests today, including Jamie McLennan, standing by, brought to you by the Bayside Oceanfront Resort. An exciting spring and summer season awaits at the Bayside, including a soon-to-be-completed outdoor pool fully equipped with ocean view cabanas, alongside the #1 ranked coffee shop in Parksville, the Bay Cafe, just steps away. They make a mean cappuccino.
Oh, big time.
Lean in mean. Call 250-248-8333 now to book your reservation and mention Donnie and Dolly for 10% off your nightly room rate. Also, be sure to grab some D&D merchandise now on sale at the Bayside. As we bring in, we know what the Stanley Cup Final is going to be. We know who's in the Stanley Cup Final. It starts Saturday, Dallas at Vegas. Probably not Dallas at Vegas, Florida at Vegas. Golden Knights over the Stars 6-0 last night. And with that, we bring in Jamie McLennan, Noodles from TSN. Thanks for doing this, Jamie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Your thoughts on Bob Myers leading the Golden State Warriors? No, we just ripped into Ryan because he mentioned a story that Rick and I didn't care about. Now we're hearing about
Nobody cares about.
in the Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox. You don't need to comment on it, Jamie.
Nobody.
Okay, good. I was very concerned. You got me sweating already early on.
Yeah. Hey, safe to say, I know Florida is 17th ranked overall, but safe to say the best team in the West is going to the Stanley Cup Final?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Dallas was right there. There were a couple teams that probably could have made a case, including the Edmonton Oilers, who were really good from January on type of thing. But if you look at Vegas and how well they're coached, how deep they are, how good their defensive core is, and they've had solid goaltending. Is Adin Hill, if everyone was healthy, including Robin Leonard, is Adin Hill number five on your depth chart, number 4, depending on what you value Jonathan Quick at right now. So that being said, they've gotten it done. And, last night they were the better team in all facets, faster, harder to play against, executing. And to me, I thought Dallas was going to have a big push, especially on home ice. I was completely wrong. I've got to be consistent. I've been wrong all playoff long. So, when you look at it, I think Vegas has been a fantastic team really from start to finish, even though they've had lots of adversity, and they deserve to be there. They've been the better team.
You're a goaltender. What do you think of this goaltending matchup? Adin Hill versus Sergei Bobrovsky. Both interesting stories. Hill coming out of nowhere. Bobrovsky rising from the ashes.
Yes, rising from the dead. It wasn't that long ago where Bobrovsky was wearing a baseball cap, and I think everyone was like that. They're paying $10 million for a guy to wear a baseball cap, and Alex Lyon marched them into the playoffs and then started the playoffs, and then Bobrovsky took over. Good for him, because I've had this argument, and especially you see a lot of the online community, the analytics community saying, replacement, all you need is replacement level goaltending. You only care about goaltending when you don't have it. That's the biggest thing. But Bobrovsky, there's a reason why he makes $10 million a year. He's got 2 Vezinas. He's won playoff rounds before. I think of what he was able to do against Tampa when he was with Columbus. So this is a guy who's a great goaltender, who's hit the ditch in Florida. Now he's feeling his game. Now, you could argue the deal was a massive amount of money, and he hasn't really lived up to it. But boy, they're paying him $10 million a year right now, just based on his level of play in this playoff. So Bobrovsky's been brilliant. Adin Hill, I mean, it's a great story. You wonder if Cinderella at some point the clock strikes 12, but that team is really strong. So they give him that defensive support. I can't remember him having to make a tough save in last night's game against Dallas. So that's a credit to how good Vegas played.
Jamie, I'm going to ask you, were you a little bit surprised that Adin Hill outplayed Jake Ottinger in that series?
Yes, I am, just based on what Ottinger's capable of.
Yeah.
But again, I come back to, what Vegas was capable of defensively. I didn't love Adin Hill's Game 5. I thought, he was He didn't find the puck. He's a big goaltender who kind of just uses his size to his advantage. And I think from his skill set, he's got good skill, but he being that big, you don't have to move that much in the net. But Ottinger never looked extremely comfortable all playoff long. And there's a reason why he was pulled that many times. I believe the stat, now I should have it updated, were there 19 pulls in the playoffs, 20 where Ottinger hit his fourth. Stuart Skinner got pulled a bunch of times. We've seen goaltenders get pulled throughout the playoffs. The Vanacek in New Jersey, Schmid there. There was just too many goaltenders getting pulled in the playoffs, and it speaks to top-end goaltenders. Again, you value them because of what they're capable of. But, yes, I was really shocked that Adin Hill outplayed Ottinger. I thought that was going to be the difference, and it certainly was in a negative way for Ottinger.
Jamie, I want to ask you about a kid in here in Vancouver, 22-year-old Artur Silovs, MVP of the World Hockey Championships. Boy, he's got to be on top of the world right now, Jamie. But he's still young. In terms of development for a 22-year-old goaltender, are you still just be patient with him? Don't rush him?
Yes, don't force feed him into a situation, especially every goaltender has their own pathway to the National Hockey League. And there's no manual. Yes, some guys make it at 22, some guys make it at 24, 26, 28. But let's get that team ahead of him playing real stable. That's the one thing that I hope for with young goaltenders. Because if you plug a young goaltender into a team that doesn't defend very well, that's very erratic in their own zone, you see erratic in their play as well. You plug a young goaltender into a team that plays pretty solid defense, all of a sudden his game is very stable. So it depends on the situation, depends on their physical and mental maturity, where they're at, if they can handle the duress. Obviously, we know it's a very passionate market in Vancouver, but I think he's got a great future ahead of him, but there's no reason to rush him. You've got a superstar ahead of him in Demko. I think he's you guys know how much I love Thatcher Demko. So maybe it's a situation where you bleed him into the lineup, you get him some reps, but Demko's your guy, and you allow the youngster to kind of just grow into his game at the National Hockey League level.
You played for both, as we see in the background here, both the Flames and the Panthers. What were your initial thoughts when you heard, we go back about a year or so, when you first heard about the Matthew Tkachuk trade and Huberdeau and Weegar joining the Flames? What were your initial thoughts?
I was happy for both organizations because, a lot of times, and we're guilty of it in the media, is, you need who won the trade and who didn't win the trade. And, I think they both got what they needed at that time. And what I mean by that is Matthew Tkachuk was very classy about it. He went to the organization and said, I'm not going to extend. I've been with you guys for 9 years. You've drafted, you've developed me. I've loved my time here, but it's time to move on. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to move away from me, get, we'll call it a king's ransom, a good trade for me. And it's a sign and trade because he gets the 8 years in Florida. Huberdeau and Weegar, both of them. I mean, obviously Huberdeau with 56 points. I don't think it could have gone worse for him in Calgary. And, I don't want to say, I think it's lazy to just say, well, it's Daryl Sutter's fault. At some point the player is still putting the gear on and you've got to go out and play as well. So, yes, he didn't fit into Daryl's style, but he certainly wasn't a productive player like we saw in Florida. And sometimes I'm going to steal a quote from Ken Holland that I watched at his year-end presser. You see sometimes where guys join a new organization, it takes them a year to settle in. And he was talking about Jack Campbell. Yeah. So I think there's a scenario where Calgary's got a new GM, they're going to have a new coach, and we'll see a resurgence from Huberdeau because he's a great player with a lot of pride, and guarantee that last season frustrated him. So even if he gets 85, 90 points next year, that's a massive improvement. And let's not forget, that trade, all those guys who came, into a new organization, Weegar, it took him a while to settle in. Tkachuk's the only one who hit the ground running, and obviously all of a sudden, he's a Conn Smythe finalist and could win a Stanley Cup here in the next couple of weeks. So that's the outlier. I think we see the other guys who struggle into their new environment, especially that big of a shock of a trade for Huberdeau. He didn't expect to get traded.
I don't think that was a Ken Holland quote. I think that was Bob Myers who came up with that at Golden State. Yeah,
You're right.
You stand corrected. Okay, one more, Jamie. Very, very quickly here. We just had Milan Lucic on, of course, from East Vancouver. How much game do you think he has left as his contract is expiring?
I think he still has games left. He's played 1,100 games in the league. With Milan, as became more polarizing because of the size of the contract. Mm-hmm. But if he signs for, I don't think it's a money thing. It's more of a situational thing. I think he can be very effective. He's still one of the toughest in the league, hands down. So if you're concerned about team toughness, he certainly will keep flies off of the top players, because just having him, I use this analogy. If you're driving down the road and there's a cop sitting there, what's your initial reaction? You slow down a little bit. Well, if you have that monster sitting on the bench, that, all of a sudden he's capable of being impactful. And I still think he has game, but it'll be farther down in your lineup. I'm a huge Milan fan. Obviously, him and I are friends. I think he still has game left, and it depends on the price point. But if he plays for, we'll call it pennies on the dollar, a start over contract just to go home, I think it'd be a nice fit for the Canucks.
Okay, thanks for doing this, Jamie. Our inbox, the Delaney's OK Tarn Langley inbox, ripping into us for Ryan's story about Bob Myers and bringing up how Overdrive in Toronto talks a lot of other sports. You guys we talk way too much hockey. So compliments to you from our customers, Jamie, and thanks for doing this.
Thank you. I do love Bob Myers. I do. He's one of the guys that I didn't want to say that, but earlier on, when you brought up his name, it just brought a tear to my eye.
Yeah, it goes without saying.
Same as us.
Thanks, Doodles. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Chat soon.